Okay, so how much do 100 flats make? Coming up. Welcome back to the Property Pilot. My name is Marco. I'm a property investor, developer and mentor, and today we're talking about how much do 100 flats make. I'm going to go through the deal today and tell you exactly how much 100 flats may make you. And we're going to talk about the ins and outs of this particular type of deal, an absolutely incredible deal, and maybe one that one day you can get involved in. So for those of you that know me and know what I focus and specialise on in property, I love blocks of flats, I love property portfolios and part portfolios, and this is an area of my specialism and my expertise. I love just acquiring part portfolios and portfolios because I can add so much value, and I'm looking to double down on this strategy. So, I'm looking to essentially buy flats and blocks of flats that are 20, 30, 40 plus units. Portfolios say that are 10, 20, 30, 40 houses. So again, if any of you know of these types of opportunities coming up, please do contact me. I'm more than happy to have a look at this deal, especially if it's based in the north of the UK. So this opportunity came up in spring 2022. And for those of you that are in the property market in spring 2022, well, it was an absolutely crazy time, pretty much the peak of the property cycle, because after that it started going a bit downhill as interest rates started to increase and confidence decreased. So again, this is the absolutely peak, and the people selling this asset were again very savvy people. They timed the market extremely well, looking to get the highest possible price for their assets. So what exactly was this opportunity? So it was around 100 units in 5 blocks of flats. Now, none of these were complete blocks of flats, so freehold blocks. They were all broken blocks where you're just buying the leases. I hope this makes sense. My block of flats that I own is freehold, so I own the whole building, and that's what I much prefer, buying freehold blocks of flats rather than just the leaseholds. However, the asking price and the price that the agent wanted on these 100 apartments was so attractive that I was kind of pulled into this, and this is what made me examine this deal and offer on this opportunity. So 5 blocks all along the M62. For those of you in the north, you'll be familiar with the M62. So somewhat easy to manage because, again, if you're based near the M62, you could be doing this with your own team and you wouldn't necessarily need to outsource this to local agents. And there were roughly around 20 flats in each development. 20 times 5 is around 100 units. Now, I viewed these 5 blocks on a particular day, and again, this more or less takes half a day to view 5 different blocks. Again, of course, there was no way getting into all 100 units. The agents, showed us around 2 or 3 as a sample in each development. Now, did they choose the best 2 or 3? I don't know. I probably would have if I was showing it around. And again, this is something you've got to account for in your figures when you're putting forward an offer. You could put forward an offer subject to actually inspecting all the individual units. Some blocks were amazing. Some blocks were okay, but in general, I was really happy with what I saw, especially with the price they were asking for these 100 units. So, the moment you've been waiting for, what is the combined rent roll for this opportunity of around 100 units? It is £444,660. That's the current annual rent roll for this opportunity. So you're buying, I hesitate to say a turnkey asset because there's a lot of work involved in managing that type of number, but you're buying an asset that's delivering cash from day one, and serious significant cash from day one. £444,660. And what I calculated was some of those rents were realistic in what was achievable in 2022, but others hadn't been increased in years. In 5 years, some rents haven't been increased. And I worked out that, me and my team, we could increase these rents and get to the near £500,000 mark in an annual rental figure just by negotiating rent increases. So again, serious stuff here we're playing out with 100 units. And this is the type of rental income you could expect to achieve, certainly in the north, if you're buying this number of units. So what was the asking price? What is, in the $1 million question here, literally, what is the asking price for all these units? Well, the agent was asking just under £5 million for these 100 units. So you can do the math yourself. Each unit is costing you around £50,000, just less than £50,000, which is an absolute steal. Now, this was actually a bargain because if you look at the units, you were paying roughly around £50,000 per leasehold, so per unit, which was absolutely crazy compared to the individual value. Now, really important point here, when you're looking at this type of scale, you don't normally tend to value based on the individual prices of the leaseholds and of the units and the flats. What you do is you price it based on the rental income, based on the yield, more so a commercial valuation rather than a residential valuation based on the individual values. I hope that makes sense. So really, if you look at this opportunity and you look at it in terms of breakup value and what this means, as it essentially means that if we used to break up this investment from 100 units and sell them off individually, there is so much money to be made because these individual units are worth far more than the collective units together. I hope that makes sense. And this was one plan that I suggested to my investors, was that, over a 20-year period, we slowly dispose of this asset and we break it up. And over these 20 years, not only are we enjoying the rental income from these units, but again, we're enjoying the profit from selling these units individually rather than collectively to another, say, commercial-based investor. So as an example, let's say if you were to buy these apartments for £50,000 per apartment, and if you were to sell them for, say, £75,000 each, which is certainly a conservative figure, you'll most likely be able to sell them just below the 100 mark, certainly in the 90s. Well, you're increasing your gross margin there is around 50%. Of course, you've got other fees to account and to think about for, but a significant profit in disposing of this asset on an individual basis. And let's say you put £5 million in, you could easily walk away with £9 million, and that doesn't even account for the rental profits over that 20-year period. So my next steps, how did I put forward an offer and try and secure this property? Well, I created 2 joint ventures specifically to purchase this opportunity. And in one joint venture, I was targeting some blocks, and in the other joint venture, again, I was targeting other blocks. And I split this up on a block basis, and the agent was open to buyers, not essentially buying the full 5 blocks and maybe splitting it into ones that they want and specialise in it, because these areas, although they were along the M62, they were really quite spread out. From one to the other could easily be about 45 minutes. And again, I had really good local knowledge in 2 of these particular areas. Now, in one of the areas, there were 2 blocks. In the other area, there was 1 block. And these were the blocks that I was really focusing on and targeting. So, had the joint venture set up, we put forward the offer, supplied the proof of funds and everything required for the agent to consider our offer and take it seriously and present it to the vendor. And there was a deadline by which these offers had to be submitted, and I submitted this offer well in advance of the deadline. I was the first person actually to submit an offer on this opportunity, and I thought maybe that could stead me some kind of positivity with the vendor, seeing how serious and how keen I am to actually acquire these blocks of flats. Now, the second viewing came along, and on the second viewing there was only 2 people there, me and someone else. So I thought, gosh, how is this possible? I was really confident that I was going to acquire this opportunity because there was only 2 people coming to look on the second viewing out of probably about 10 people that came to the first viewing. So again, I was feeling really confident, and I knew up until that point the agent had only had 1 offer, which was my offer. So let's fast forward a few more days. The deadline had passed, and yes, we had to just cross our fingers and hope that the offer was accepted. Now, about a week elapsed, and I was told the bad news that unfortunately my offer had not been accepted and they chose to proceed with a different offer. And I was absolutely gutted. I was devastated. I'd put weeks of work into this project, all the due diligence, all the, raising the finance and everything required to submit a really good offer. I put so much time, effort and energy, and the rewards on this project were so huge. So I was absolutely devastated that this didn't come my way and our way. However, I was surprised to be told that the person, or say corporation, that was successful, not only did they buy this whole 5 blocks, but they bought again another part of the portfolio that the existing vendor was selling, and it ended up being, I think if I recall correctly, the successful bidder was buying £18 million worth of property, all cash, no finance, all from the same vendor. So again, I understand how they've accepted and why they've accepted that offer. Of course, they're essentially taking all their portfolio for sale off them in a single transaction, all cash, not relying on finance, nice and easy. Unfortunately, I don't have £18 million in the bank. Maybe one day, hey. But a little lesson I learned actually from that opportunity is I could have afforded to put in a better offer on that property, and I didn't. The reason I didn't is because there was such little interest in this opportunity. I thought I was so confident of getting it, and especially on that second viewing when there was just one other person, I thought, well, let's just make my figure slightly lower, and maybe if I would have had my figure at a higher figure that was still feasible and everyone was still happy at, well, my investors were happy at, maybe I would would have got this property, who knows? So a little learning point there for me. And sometimes when you really want an opportunity and there's a lot of demand for this type of investment, this obviously I didn't think there was, then sometimes it's actually best coming in at your best offer rather than going in tiered approaches and working your way up. So absolutely gutted. These types of opportunities do not come by often. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I saw an opportunity this good, probably a couple of years prior to then. So, these don't come down too often, but you'll be sure that when the next one comes up, I'll be ready, I've learned my lesson, and then again, everything's ready to go and pull the trigger once something like this comes up. So I built rapport with the agent. The next time they come across something like this, they specialize in these types of deals, larger residential deals. So the next time something pops up in my area, they give me a call. And again, something that did pop up actually a few months later, I went and viewed, I offered on it, but again, I wasn't successful. It needed a lot of work doing to it, and someone was able to come in at a better offer than me. So it's important to build rapport and build relationships with agents that you want to work with, because one day when they come across another opportunity that's similar, they'll think of you and they'll pick up the phone and they'll call you. So I hope this video has given you a bit more of a background about how much 100 apartments could potentially make you. In the rental income alone, you're looking at 6 figures. In this example, I think it was around £450,000 in rent, every single year. Absolutely phenomenal. And that doesn't even include the capital appreciation, or if you plan to sell these units in the future, you could quite easily double that figure on an annual basis, an internal rate of return basis. You can be looking at some crazy figures once you incorporate the capital appreciation. So for those of you that haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do consider subscribing. YouTube tells me the majority of people watching this video are not subscribing. It does mean a lot to me. Every Tuesday and every Thursday at 2 o'clock, I release a new full-length video, so please do stay tuned for that. Any questions, you know where to get hold of me, ms7.uk. I love to hear from those looking to get into property, or if you're looking to take that step and scale to the next level and buy blocks of flats and you need a bit of help doing this, head to my website and book a call with me. I'm really passionate about helping people invest in property correctly and in the right way. I wish you all the very best in your property investing journey. Goodbye.